What does our panel think? Joining me here in LA, Democrat Shane Harris, CEO of S. Harris Communications, who's heavily involved in San Diego government, and Chef Andrew Gruel, who's a restaurant owner and city councilman for Huntington Beach, California. Welcome to you both. Great to have you here. As the Democrat here, are you with the 8 Democrats who said, let's end this shutdown, or pretty much the rest of the party who said, we're outraged?
Look, I understand the outrage and the concern among some of the more far left fragments of the Democratic Party pertaining to these 8 Democrats.
It's not just the far left, it's almost the entire party, right?
It's almost the entire party. But I will say that I'm with the 8 Democrats because what we're looking at is travel plans, holiday, up in arms. Everybody's concerned about flights. We're looking at several thousands of government workers that cannot go back to, that are not getting paid. And I think that these 8 Democrats had a decision to make. They weren't going to get the ACA vote before the CR. And so they had a decision to make. What do we do in this situation? You got to consider your state. And I think that at the end of the day, they did what they had to do in representing their constituents.
And what you mean is a health care vote on premiums for health care before the continuing resolution, which is basically saying, let's keep the government open, let's fund it where we're at. What do you make of Democrats in disarray?
I think that the 8 Democrats did a great job. I'm glad that they ended up pushing this forward because the only people that were hurt in this little debate and the punting or the spiking, depending on how you look at it, of the political football were the American people. And the reality is that we needed to be able to push these. The whole system is broken, the means by which they negotiate. We need these mini bills or mini buses to go through, and then we need to take the burnt toast on the plate that everybody's ignoring, healthcare, and we need to have a separate, open dialogue, conversation, whatever you want to call it, debate, and do the work that they're supposed to be doing, which is to come up with a reasonable resolution on that. Nothing was benefited by having this kind of multi-week shutdown. It only hurt people, so they did the right thing.
But Democrats would say it raised the issue, it changed the dialogue on this, and it showed where they are. And right now, though, there's no deal on what you're talking about. We're not dealing with the toast.
Yeah, well, we're not dealing with the toast, although there was kind of a promise, like a gentle handshake from Thune. He said,
we're obviously... we'll talk about it, not that we'll actually deal with it.
They all know we have to deal with this, both Republicans and Democrats. 20% of the federal budget goes towards health care, and we've only gotten sicker. Chronic disease has only gotten worse over the past decade. So everyone knows we have to deal with it, and we can't be using kind of like political wins and political blood sport in order to try and resolve that issue. It's another issue, and it needs to be debated separately.
And that's unfortunately what both political parties seem to have been doing here. There's no coincidence that the midterms are coming up next year. And so every time the midterms come, you always see this uprising of political football playing this back and forth. The Democrats playing this on the ACA and the Republicans playing this on, thousands of government workers that aren't getting their paychecks. They're negotiating from this field of politics and specifically the midterms. And I think that at the end of the day, these 8 Democrats did what they had to do in regard to representing their constituents and doing what they had to do right now, at least getting a verbal commitment, which is not much of nothing in politics, but at least it's a start.
Meanwhile, another headline of the day, Chef, we saw Harmeet Dillon, who you know, the Assistant Attorney General who was just on with us, is now investigating UC Berkeley over the way that the police there handled a protest of the Charlie Kirk organization, Turning Points USA. What do you make of what she's saying? And is this just an example of free speech?
Yeah, I mean, political violence in reaction to free speech is something that needs to stop immediately. I mean, she dropped the hammer years ago, and she's got to drop the hammer again. We just can't have these situations where people are getting violent, and then we have what feels like, at least universities and obviously the local police force, taking sides. I mean, that was apparent. The guy who did get all bloodied, we saw the pictures all last night, he got arrested as well. I mean, and Berkeley obviously has a reputation as being the epicenter of the left, so it's no surprise that this violence broke out, and they weren't even prepared for it. So she has an opportunity right now to drop the hammer and say enough of this, or to kind of just use this as a PR stunt, which is not what I'm saying she's doing, but we need to actually show action here.
Do you think this is a PR stunt?
I think that it is a PR stunt for those on the far right from the perspective of, I do think that she is sort of utilizing this to defend the rights of those who maybe are on the more far right of politics. But if you're going to defend hate, defend it across the board. Don't just take it civil rights on over here and not over here. I would have to disagree with my brother a little bit, the chef over here, a little bit in regard to the context of Berkeley and Berkeley's history. It is a place where, people have, there's a long history of activism at Berkeley. And I think that debate and, looking at, as long as there's no violence, I think that these kind of places like Berkeley open up the opportunity for that kind of debate.
But you would not say that Berkeley's been pretty far left over the years?
I mean,
have you been there?
I will say that there are hotbeds of the far left and the far right in colleges across the country.
Yeah.
And I think that she's right to take this on. I think that she needs to take hate on across the board, not just for the far right.
Thoughts
groups.
on that? That maybe she's especially protecting people on her side.
I do agree that there needs to be a broad approach to this, so I will agree with you on that. But find me a Republican in Berkeley, and I'm going to write you a big check.
There are some, including
some.
the branch of Turning Point USA who hosted this event.
Okay, that is
so
true.
We've
that
seen
is
some.
true.
There wouldn't
All
have
right,
been
there's
the
a
event
couple.
without them. Meanwhile, President Trump is talking about this word affordability, which he says is a new word. It's not a new word here in California, something we've been talking about for many, many years. This idea that it's too expensive to live. You both deal primarily with city governments, which doesn't deal with all this other cable news BS, honestly, the issues that don't actually affect people. As people that actually are on the ground dealing with this day after day, what's one thing you think that would make life more affordable for the average person watching this right now?
Well, first of all, the president ran on this touting affordability. And the former President Biden, actually sat in chairs and denied that people were facing an affordability crisis in this nation. President Trump gets elected. Now you're almost a year in, and people are questioning how much of affordability are we really delivering for the American people. And so when you look at affordability, I think housing is a real issue there.
So we need to cut regulations on housing? Is that what you're saying?
I think we should look at unique opportunities as far as tax credits for first-time home buyers and opportunities like that.
For you?
Well, I'm going to cut right to the chase, especially when it comes to city government, Huntington Beach. They need to cut payroll taxes because that's going to put more money in both the business and the workers' pockets. They need to cut regulations, especially from a business perspective, because the more it costs businesses in order to operate day in and day out, then the more their prices are going to go up. And then that goes towards perpetuating that affordability crisis. So that's first and foremost, and that can be done on a state level.
One thing that I think can bring everybody together is food. And I just want to give you a shout out. Your food looks amazing. You have these incredible pictures on your Instagram and your X. And here's some of them. What do you think is one meal that brings us together the most?
Mashed potatoes.
Everybody loves good mashed potatoes.
And they all have an opinion about mashed potatoes, right? With the butter, with the cream. I even heard the other day Dijon mustard and brie cheese mashed potatoes.
Best mashed potatoes?
I like to keep it really, really clean, and I do a 1 part butter to 1 part potato ratio, almost like an emulsion.
One sentence for each of you for Veterans Day.
Freedom is not free.
Thank you to those who paved the way for us to live in the country that we live in.
Big thank you to all the veterans and watching. Thank you both for coming in as well. Great to talk with both of you, Shane Harris, Chef Andrew Gruel. We will have more. We'll head to Brazil and talk to Governor Newsom's top climate